emphasize on what we have discussed till now. We have till now discussed the response of first order circuits. We have seen that the inductor current and the capacitor voltage cannot change instantaneously. Rather, it will first have a transient operation, and then it will move to the steady state. Whether it is a capacitor voltage or an inductor current, it has to follow the same path. The first, the transient response will be there, and then the steady state response will be there. So similar thing will also happen for second order circuits. That means that we will be having a second order differential equation. Okay, we have to solve that equation, and then we have to get the response of inductor current and capacitor voltages. Okay, so the problematic, or you can say a little bit difficult thing, is that uh, you have to go through the solution of second order differential equation. So I am now moving towards my screen. Okay, so this is lecture 9. I welcome you all of unit 1, that is EEC 2C102710 circuit theory, and we are today starting the uh, chapter or a lesson, or we will have probably 2 3 lectures on this second order circuits, and then we will move forward. Okay, so as you can see, this picture here also is a more than second order circuit, because we are having more than uh, three we have three inductors and almost 3 and 4 capacitors. So we will be considering a circuit in which we will have uh, inductor and a capacitor only. That means the order of the differential equation that we will write will be a second order. So actually the first order differential circuits are not practically very useful. Okay, so first we will determine the natural response of the second order circuit. Natural response is the thing uh, that is required for us to. So the natural response of second order circuit we need to determine. So the second order circuit will have these elements, that it will have two energy storing elements. That is the first thing, two energy storing elements. Both L and C are present in our case. In our case, both L and C are present. So for so many people are joining late. So here we will consider simple series and parallel RLC circuits. That means we will limit our discussion not to complex circuits, but to simple series and parallel RLC circuits. That is the third point for analysis. And the fourth point is that there are two initial conditions which are needed to be determined. That means you need to know the initial inductor current, that is I0, IL0, and VC0. For writing or getting a complete solution, we need these two initial conditions to be determined before writing the complete solution. So actually, the force response is not changing. Okay, what is changing is the natural response or the transient response of the circuit. Because finally what will happen, that if it is a capacitor, then it has to store charge, and it will be charged to some value. Okay, and it will become open circuit with some value of VC. Similarly, if there is an inductor, it will become short circuit with some current flowing through it in the steady state part. Okay, what is changing from the first order circuit is that we are getting a bit different type of natural response. Okay, so the natural response of the circuit will be different, but the force response will remain same. That means the capacitor will be charged to some value of voltage depending upon the circuit conditions, and then we will have an inductor which will be shorted in the steady state. Okay, so second order differential equation we need to solve. The response of the circuit can be classified as underdamped. Okay, that means this kind of response. if you are getting this kind of response, this is under damped response or an over damped response. That is also known as a sluggish response or a critically damped response. This is on the boundary of under damped, that is one response. This is over damped, second response, and critically damped, that is third response. So the response, okay, the response can be under damped, over damped, or critically damped. Let me change the color. So response can be under damped, or it can be over damped, or it can be critically damped. Okay. Usually under damped and critically damped response are preferred because they reach the steady state in a they reach the steady state in a short period of time. So you can classify the responses as under damped or over damped or critically damped. Okay, these types of responses we will get. Each will depend upon the time constant. That is actually they will depend on L and C both. Now that will be the time constant. We will see what will be the expression for time constant in this case. So it will depend on these values of time constant L and C, how the response will turn out to be. The second important things are mostly second order circuits are useful circuits. Second order circuits are useful circuits, are popular and useful means they have lots of applications. Okay, lots of applications they are having. Closest application is the design of filters. Okay, yes. Filters are very popularly known. We will go through in Unit 3. Are designed with the combination of L and C. So what they can do, they can break a particular frequency. Okay, they can take out a particular frequency from the system, and they can filter out that frequency from the output. So in that manner, the second order circuits are very useful circuits. Okay, as compared to the first order circuits. Okay, let me see someone wants to admit. Okay, so in that manner, the second order circuits are very useful circuits. They can be used in filter circuits. They can be used in variety of applications. They can be used in automobile suspension systems, temperature controllers, and even in the airplanes for control purpose they can be used. So wide variety of circuits in electrical engineering have a combination of L and C. Okay, both for AC and DC. So we are here considering first the DC response, and after the second order circuits will be completed, we will see the what will be the AC response of a series RLC and parallel circuit. But here we are considering a DC response. So let us start by drawing a circuit diagram. So the heading will be you can also uh, write that obtaining the response of a source free parallel RLC circuit. Okay. So we are need to obtain the response of a source free parallel RLC circuit. So let me draw the circuit. This is R, this is L, and this is C. This is R, this is L, and this is C. We can assume that there is some initial inductor current which was flowing. So we can assume it that I 0 plus is equal to I naught, and V 0 plus is equal to V naught. That means there is some initial capacitor voltage which is present in the system, and there is some initial inductor current which is present in the system, but there is no uh, uh, there is no source present in the system. There is no source present in the system. There is no source present in the system. So you can see that we have this kind of circuit in which we can have somebody else is joining. So we can see that we have this kind of circuit in which we have a parallel RLC circuit in which there is a resistance, inductance, and capacitance which are connected in parallel. So obviously, we will get the response of capacitor voltage VCT with respect to time because we are connected in a parallel circuit. So the underlying boundary condition will be decided by the capacitor only. Okay, if we have a series RLC circuit like this R, L, and some C, and that is not connected to any source, and there is some initial inductor current I naught with some initial capacitor voltage VC naught, then here you will get the response of I T. That will be the current which will be flowing in a series RLC circuit. Since because it is a parallel circuit, so we will get the response of transient response of the voltage across the capacitor. So quickly writing the differential equation, we can put the KVL to the use. We at this node, we can see that the current which is coming out from here will be coming to zero. So we can write down that IR, you're writing KCL at node A, writing KCL at node A, we can write down that IR plus IL plus IC is equal to 0. Okay. So simplifying the expression, we can write down that IR plus IL plus IC is equal to 0. That means V by R plus inductor current 1 over L integral VDT plus capacitor current, okay, IC is equal to C dV by dt, okay, will be equal to 0. That will be the our first equation. Okay. Now, since this is our integral differential equation, we need to convert into a purely differential equation. So we need to divide it and rearrange it. So differentiating the above equation, differentiating one, we get with respect to t. Obviously, we can get c times d2v by dt square plus 1 over r dv by dt plus 1 by L B, that is equal to 0. Okay, so this much we can write. This is equation number 2. This is equation number 2. So now we have to solve equation 2. What is this? This is a second order differential equation. Second order differential equation. Okay, this is a second order differential equation. Now, how to solve this second order differential equation? To solve a second order differential equation, we have two methods. One is the standard solutions, standard solutions for second order circuits, for second order differential equation, which you have already, I am sure, gone through in your mathematics classes. The standard solution for, or in your yes, in your first year classes, you must have gone through the standard solution for second order differential equation. This is one of the approaches. The second approach is to use the Laplace transform. Okay, so the Laplace transform you will go in your signals course in unit 3. So I am using the first approach. Okay. Now, applying some previous knowledge. Okay, we are applying some previous knowledge. Okay, what do we know? We know that in a source-free circuit, the capacitor voltage VCT will ultimately go to 0. Okay, that we already know. Or we cannot say that We can also say that the response will be exponentially decaying. So this we already know. Since it is also a source-free circuit, then this assumption is true. It will happen this time also. But we don't know, we do not know how it will be. What will be the, whether it will be a purely exponential decay or what will be there, we don't know. But we don't know, and we also don't know the time constant. Okay. We also don't know the time constant, how it will depend and what will be the shape, that we don't know. But we know this thing, that the response will be exponentially decaying. Okay, whether it will be summation of exponentials or something else, we don't know, but we know that response will be exponentially decaying. This thing we know. So we can assume, let us assume first, let us assume let us assume that the voltage Vt will have a solution like this: A times e to the power st. Okay, we don't know what is A and S. So A and S can be, A and S can be complex also, because we have to write S because we don't know this is basically the deciding the time constant. This is basically deciding the time constant. So what it will be, we don't know, but we have written that A and S can be complex also. That is the assumption. Now, if, then let us assume that this is equation 3. Now, if 3 is a solution, we are taking the reverse route. Okay, we are not directly attempting the solution of second order differential equation, but we are taking the reverse route. So reverse route we are taking because we know certain things in advance. Okay, so that's why we are taking the reverse route. We are assuming a solution and then we are putting it in the back in our equation. Okay, so if 3 is a solution of equation 2, let me show you what is what equation 2. So that means we are particularly attempting the solution for this equation: C times d to b by dt square 1 by r dv by dt plus 1 by l b. Okay, so we are particularly attempting the solution for this equation. Now, if 3 is a solution of equation 2, then we can write, put 3 in 2. Okay, so that means if we put 3 in 2, the equation will be C times A S square e to the power st plus 1 by r A times e to the power st multiplied by s, because it will be differentiating. So we are just putting it here. Okay, 1 by r, instead of v, we are writing instead of v, we are writing solution Vt is equal to A times e to the power st, and then differentiating it twice, and then single, and then no differentiation. That's why we are attempting a solution. Okay. So C times A S square e to the power st plus 1 by r A S e to the power st plus 1 by L A e to the power st is equal to 0. Okay, so that means we can simplify this equation. Let us mark it as 4. Okay, so we can simplify that equation as A times e to the power st bracket cs square plus 1 by r s plus 1 by l is equal to 0. Okay, so this is the this is the thing which we are getting now. As you can see that it is shown here that A times e to the power st multiplied by cs square plus 1 by r s plus 1 by L is equal to 0, where S is a complex constant. A can also be complex. C, R, and L are constant values of capacitor, resistor, and inductor. Now, if two things are multiplied by 0, that means if A to the power st multiplied by this constant is 0, that means either it can be 0 or either it can be 0. Okay. So it cannot be 0. This cannot be 0 because this is what we are finding out. If this is 0, then we cannot get anything. Okay. So actually this is 0. Cs square plus 1 by Rs plus 1 by L. This is the, as you have remembered in your differential equation, one part goes to 0 and this is not 0 and this is 0. Cs square plus 1 by Rs. So if we consider that A e to the power st is 0, that means a is 0, that means we are not getting any solution. So that means this particular term is not 0, but this is 0. So when it is assumed to be 0, we will get a differential equation. So let us assume that cs square plus 1 by rs. Remember that s is a complex constant. Cs square plus 1 by rs plus 1 by l is equal to 0. Okay, so it is a differential equation. I'm sorry that it is a quadratic equation. This is a quadratic equation in S. Okay, so what we will get from here, we will get S1 is equal to. So obviously it will have two solutions. That means two values of S can exist. Two value of S can exist. Okay, so S1 is equal to minus 1 over 2 RC plus under root 1 over 2 RC. Any approach you can apply, okay? Whether you can solve it directly, you can solve it using Laplace transformation, anything you can apply. You are free. I am liking this approach, so I am using this. As you will get the same solution. S1 you will get minus 1 upon 2 RC plus under root 1 over 2 RC minus 1 over LC. Okay. And S2 you will get minus 1 over 2 RC minus of 1 over 2 RC square minus 1 over LC. So these are two different values of S1 and S2. That means there are two values of S which can exist. Okay. Now in these equations, this minus 1 upon 2 RC is known as omega naught. That is the natural frequency of the circuit, and alpha is equal to 1 over 2 RC. That is known as the damping constant of the circuit. Okay, so this is omega naught. Omega naught is equal to the complex frequency of the circuit. So we can say that omega naught is omega naught is 1 over omega naught is 1 over 2 RC. That is the complex frequency of circuit, or we can also it is also known as resonant frequency. Let me write the cut, which is a more popular word. That is omega naught is equal to 1 over 2 RC. That is known as the resonant frequency of the circuit. Resonant frequency of circuit, or damping, or you can also say that it is a natural frequency of, correct word is natural frequency of circuit. That is known as omega naught. What is alpha? Alpha, as you can see, R is coming, so alpha is basically a damping constant. You can say it that is an exponential damping constant. and its unit is popularly known as its unit is popularly in Nepers. Okay, okay. Till now it is clear. Till now it is clear.
हेलो सर, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
बताइए
सर उसमें सर ओमेगा वन अपॉन एल सी होगा ना?
कहाँ पे?
सर वो जो नेचुरल फ्रिक्वेंसी लिखी थी।
सर यस ओमेगा की वैल्यू सर क्या होगी?
सर ओमेगा की वैल्यू वन अपॉन एल सी आएगी ना सर?
ओ
यस सर 1/LC होगी सर वो।
okay, yes, you are correct. Oh, that means here, yes, it is correct. Let me erase it. Yes, you are correct. I was mistaken. Omega, here I forgot to write this previous slide. Yes, here in this slide, this is correctly pointed out that this is okay. I have written the same thing. So this is not omega naught. This is omega naught will be equal to, that is the natural frequency of the circuit, that is 1 over L. Fine, correct. Okay, so that means if we now know omega naught and alpha, so uh, both will be are a solution of a complex frequency, that is S. So S have, as you can see, S we can define at sigma plus j omega. Okay. So S is a complex constant where it has two parts, where omega naught is one part and alpha is the another part. Okay. So the natural the natural response the natural response of the parallel RLC circuit can now be written as Vt is equal to, can you guess what it will be? Since you have got two values of S1, what it will be, can you guess? Okay, since you have got two values of S, we can write down, and this is a linear system, we can write down by exploiting the property of superposition, we can write down that Vt is equal to A1 e to the power S1t plus A2 e to the power S2t. Okay, so we can write down it like this: Vt is equal to A1 e to the power S1t plus A2 e to the power S2t, and each this constant is corresponding. A1, A2 are A1 and A2 are unknown constants which needs to be determined. Okay. So there are two initial conditions now, and from those two initial conditions we have to determine these two constants. A1 and A2 are unknown constants which needs to be determined. Okay. So this is one thing. Second thing is S1 is similar. You can write down S1 is equal to minus of alpha plus under root of alpha square minus omega naught square, and S2 is equal to minus alpha minus of alpha square minus omega naught square, where omega naught is equal to 1 over under root of LC and alpha will be equal to 1 over 2RC. So this much you can, from the equation that we have already derived, from this equation we can directly write it, these S1 and S2. So once you calculate these S1 and S2, you will get these S1, which is a complex constant. Now, as you can see, this S1 and S2, S1 and S2 can be real, purely real, or complex, both. Either it can be a real constant. For example, if alpha is less than omega naught, if alpha is less than omega naught, then this will have a factor of j. That means it will become imaginary. This value will become negative. So S1 will become minus of alpha and some plus j times something, and similarly S2 will become minus of alpha minus of j times something if alpha is less than omega naught. If alpha is greater than omega naught, then it will be a constant number, and that can be subtracted with added with minus of alpha, so it will be a real number. Okay, so it either can be a real or it either can be a complex number. Okay, so we can classify the response. We can classify the response depending on the values of alpha and omega naught. Okay, remember that alpha is 1 over 2 RC and omega naught is 1 over under root LC. Let me again write it, 1 over 2 RC and omega naught is equal to 1 over under root LC. Okay, now if alpha is greater than omega naught, then the response will be overdamped and S1 and S2 will be real. Okay, if that is first condition. Second, if alpha is equal to omega naught, that means see this equation that if alpha is equal to omega naught, then everything will be gone. Only alpha minus of alpha will remain. Okay, if alpha is equal to omega naught, the roots will be real, and the response will be known as an critically damped response. Very important concept. Depending upon the uh, frequency, depending upon the frequency, these are having the dimensions of frequency. And the third condition is, which is most popular, which is most popular, is the condition when alpha is less than omega naught, in which the roots becomes S1 and S2 becomes complex. S1 and S2 becomes complex. So if an S1 and S2 becomes complex, then the response will be an underdamped response. So this is underdamped response, which we were talking about earlier. Now, all these responses are usually observed in electrical circuits. Let us talk about first response, that is our usually in the circuit we have electrical circuits. We have all types of responses. That means electrical circuit current and voltage can either behave like this. This is this, maybe you have seen this graph many times. This is current or voltage with respect to time. So this response is underdamped, or that means an underdamped response may have some overshoot. Okay, this is the transient part, and then there is the steady state part. An overdamped response look like this, just like a first order circuit response. Okay, this is the steady state, no, sorry, this is the transient part, and this is the steady state part. As you can see in the overdamped response, this is overdamped. As you can see in the overdamped response, there is no overshoot. So you can write down there is no overshoot. Overshoot means the steady state value is settling at this point. So above, if it is the response is going, then it is known as overshoot. So there is no overshoot in the overdamped response, but response is sluggish. What do you mean by sluggish? Sluggish means it is reaching the final value after a long period of time. That means it is starting from here and then it is reaching the final steady state value. Whereas in overshoot response, this is possible that you may get a overshoot, but quickly you can move towards the steady state part. So this overshoot can be small, just like one overshoot, and then it moves on. Whereas compared to the overdamped response, it may have a large sluggish response till here, and then it moves to the steady state. So a combination of both these, in between the underdamped response and overdamped response, we have another response which is popular. Okay, you can design your circuit to work in critically damped response. Critically damped response. Okay, why? Because in critically damped response, the circuit starts and then quickly moves to the steady state. So what happens, that transient is not there. Transient part is not there. This is, we are talking all of forced response. This is all forced response. Because here in this circuit, this is forced response, this is forced response. Here in this circuit, when you have only, when you don't have any source connected into the system, so you will have finally the current and voltage will go to zero, as we will see in numerical problems. Suppose the response here in this case will come out to be like this. Okay, this response will come out to be like this. So ultimately everything will go to zero. If this is a forced response, then it will become like this, or like this, or like this. Okay. Anything depending upon the values of LNC. So if it is an unforced response, obviously everything will go to zero. Everything will go to zero. Here we are talking about the forced response, in which there is some kind of source which is connected into the system. Okay, so this is also a forced response. This is also a forced response of RLC circuit, depending upon whether you are taking current or voltage on y-axis with respect to the current. So a critically damped system has an advantage that it quickly reaches the final value. That means the inductor current or capacitor voltage, whatever the final value, whether it will be like this if it is in a steady state part, or it may be like this. If it is moving towards the zero, then quickly it can move towards the zero also without any sluggish response. Okay, so all these things we will discuss one by one. We will go through the numerical problems and then simulation. What will happen in critically damped response? What will happen in underdamped response? And what will happen on uh, the these? For example, if you have an underdamped response for source-free circuit, if you have an underdamped response, then the response will something be like this. Okay, this response can be like this, or if the damping is properly controlled, it may be like this also. will start from here, and then after few cycles it will come to 0. So this is 0, this is current, this is current. This is for unforced. Okay, no, that is the case we have discussed. And if it is forced, that means some external source is there, then it will settle down to some value of current or. So I was talking about the critically damped response. It quickly reaches the final value and do not have any overshoot. So we will see in the next class, we will define another constant that is very, very important. We will see what is damping constant. Damping constant we have seen, but we will define it with another definition. And we will see how you can define there is constant that is known as zeta. So this is from my side. If you have any questions for this lecture, you can ask by unmuting your mic.